Now, I want to make a separate distinction between stand-up comedy and humor. What is the aim of a stand-up comedian? To make you laugh, to keep you entertained. Gag after gag after gag, that is his or her aim, and they do it very well. And believe me, that's one of the toughest jobs on planet Earth. Yes or no?
Yes.
Keeping people laugh for hours together or minutes together. But my focus today is going to be, as an ordinary speaker, a project speaker in a Toastmasters club, haven't you noticed that you have the same kind of language, you have the same kind of felicity, you have the same kind of talent, but you find that a speaker who uses humor, his speech is much more memorable, and inevitably he or she is the one who gets the ribbons or whatever you give here, certificates or trophies, right? So how do I manage that kind of humor which will make people my speech memorable? That is the objective. I'm not here to say how to crack jokes and things like that. Many years ago, I was at SSY Toastmasters Club. There was a lady who came and gave her icebreaker. She said, my husband and I had a very interesting honeymoon. My husband went to Kashmir, I went to Ambala. After that, she said, look here, my husband is an Air Force officer. Just before we started for a honeymoon, he got a message that he has to be in the war front. Friends, realize that we, wives of war heroes, make a lot of sacrifices in life. Now, it was as if she had hit us hard. You know, what she did was, she used humor to make us remember that their lives are very precious. So if I can use humor in such a way, I think the memory is much, much better. And you don't have to make lofty speeches. A simple icebreaker can be very memorable. 15 years ago, I heard a girl called Anisha Mascarenas. She was talking about the man of my dreams. It was an icebreaker speech. I don't want him to come on a white horse and all that. Just a BMW will do. It was said with such simplicity that I still can't forget. Just an icebreaker. So what I'm trying to tell you is, I don't expect to laugh minute after minute when I speak. I am only going to tell you how you can use some simple techniques to make your speech memorable, and you may not get the roof falling down. A stand-up comedian who speaks before you or after you may get the entire roof down. My aim is not to do that. If you're able to elicit 5% of the audience to smile, you have started making progress. Why? Because so far I've been known as a very serious speaker, and even if I make a funny speech, everybody looks at it like a funeral oration. But I'm going to make something, start with a one-liner or something and make it memorable. That is the aim of this entire exercise. Are we ready to take part?
Yes.
Okay. Now, judging from my own experience and from stalwarts, I only have some 3 simple ways. As far as possible, use your own stories. Definitely, there's a lot of fun happening in your own lives, but we always look for joke books, or we look for Facebook forwards or WhatsApp forwards. Don't think fun is happening anywhere else. If you have the habit of shaving every day, there is so much of humor. If you look at the mirror, there is so much happening. That's why someone said there is a banquet out there and most of us are starving. The time manager, please. 17, 19 and 20. Yeah, sorry. So you understand how this, where was I? I'm sorry for the interruption.
You're shaving.
Yeah?
You were shaving.
Oh, okay, do that humor. In my case, what happened? I was the G in my club, Smedley Speakers Society. There was a very young girl called Nikita Prasad who was the MC. She's now in Dubai, you must rope her in. She came and said, during the course of my talk, I'm going to ask you 5 questions. And whoever answers all those 5 questions is going to get a chocolate hamper. I was all ready because I was G sitting there. Then I answered all the 4 questions, but one question I could not, and that was, what is the female of a donkey called? I couldn't answer that question. Okay, it was over. Now she's introducing me. I have to walk from there. You know how she introduced me? CK, people talk so much about you. I thought you'll know everything. You couldn't answer this simple question. A 3rd grade student would have answered this. Come, and this is our G. It's as if saying, welcome the idiot G. And from there I had to come. I thought, how do I recover from this assault? everybody's looking at me like a moron, right? So suddenly all my Toastmasters experience came to my help and said, now I know why I didn't answer that question. You know, Nikita, in elementary school I was such a bright student. From second standard I got a double promotion to the fourth standard, which means I didn't study third grade. If only I had attended third grade, I would have answered. Believe me, everybody laughed. And for the first time, even I was happy with the response. So what happened was, humor has this powerful way of changing the tone of the conflict or a tense situation. Once again, I was addressing a training session, a room like this, and it was in a hotel. The coffee was kept right behind, and suddenly the coffee machine, the filter caught fire. Minor fire, but it was all unsettling. And then I had to pull them back into, imagine people sitting there, and right behind them something has happened, and they were all tensed up. Don't know when the next thing is going to happen. I had to get their attention back. And I said, in my 15 years of public speaking, I have managed to ignite human minds. This is the first time I've ignited an object. So what happened? Everything was turned. So these two incidents happened in my own life. There's no way I think I can replicate this. You will not find this any joke. Now suppose you tell me so many exciting things are not happening in my life. The second formula is restate or personalize someone else's story, which is what I did when I was called as a guest speaker to speak on humor in a club called Daffodils Toastmasters Club in Bangalore. I was the primary speaker. I was supposed to start off, but because of the traffic hold-up, I went 25 minutes late. And everybody was giving me slightly irritated looks because they thought they must have told so many things, CK, GK and all. And the guy who doesn't even respect time, what sort of a guy? So I had to get the thing back. I said, look here guys, I rushed out just not to miss this meeting, and in my eagerness, I jumped the red signal. The police officer came and caught me. I said, sir, what's the problem? He said, you crossed the red signal. I said, don't you know the rules have changed? What rules? He said. I showed the Toastmasters manual. After the red light flashes, you have a 30-second grace. Nobody believed me. I don't think the Daffodils guys believed me, but it helped me to ease the situation like anything, and they knew they can expect something. Greatly, my image was salvaged. So that is the power of humor. Now, this did not happen to me. I heard this in a Toastmasters convention, and I just replicated this. I used Malleshwaram, I used local language. You may want to use Sheikh Zayed Road or some signal and make it so believable so you can restate something that has happened and personalize the entire issue. Now, the third one is what I'm going to come to. Always, especially when you're making a project speech, make a point, have humor, and again make a point. Now that stays far, far ahead. I think I've said this in your club before, but as a presentation skills trainer, I always tell people that audience analysis is very important. And how do I add humor? Preparing for a speech without the audience in mind is like you writing a love letter to whomsoever it may concern. And then I said, audience analysis is important. More recently in my training sessions on influencing negotiation skills, we say that one of the key factors of influencing somebody is you should be an expert. If you're an expert, you don't need a great title. People will automatically come to you. And I give my own example. See, I'm a diabetic patient for the past 15 years, and every 6 months I have to go and get my blood levels checked, blood sugar levels checked. You know, once before breakfast, once after breakfast. I tell you, 90% of the time, these technicians make life miserable for me. First they will poke, and then they'll start searching for the vein. Very painful. It's actually a very simple needle, but it can be very, very painful because they do R&D on my hand. But 6 months ago, there was this girl. First thing she did was she tapped my hand. She put that spirit, located the vein, and finally inserted the. It was such a pleasant, smooth experience. Such a pleasant experience, I almost shouted once more. I'm not joking. I thanked her. I told her this is the first time I've had someone, I didn't even know that something had been inserted. Now, after breakfast, it is not necessary that you will get the same person. But can you blame me for asking the same thing? Now, Juliana, don't laugh. She was a very plain looking girl. She must be thinking very sexy girl. That's why I went only for her expertise. And then I concluded by saying, Vidwan Sarvatra Pujyate. Now, I tell you, I used this some 15 years ago. I'm sure Manish also has heard this in one of these sessions. But I still keep getting feedback and said, we remember that expertise story because of that example that you gave. So what I'm trying to tell you is, don't crack a joke just for the sake of cracking. Use humor. It can be a one-liner, it can be an example, or it can be something that you yourself know. If you can add that point, then people remember this much, much better. Don't you think that humor helps you to memorize? Well,
Yes.
the message becomes much more memorable because you add humor. Now, this is the third part. And there are certain lessons that I've learned. First thing I've learned is, if there is no you in humor, there is no humor in you. Look at my friend Falgun. Yes, until you see him, you won't even know that he has this thing. And he was speaking, slowly taking pot shots at himself. I remember, the moment you don't take yourself seriously, then nothing becomes serious anymore. There is a person called Alexander Arulnathu in Toastmaster in Chennai. He was working for a company called Amazon.com, earning a filthy amount of salary. But his passion was stand-up comedy. He resigned his job and started working. And he narrates his own story this way. I started working in bars. You know, they asked these stand-up guys to come and do a show. They didn't pay me any money, but they used to give me 2 free drinks, chips and peanuts. I don't drink, so I started getting peanuts after peanuts. So I was working for peanuts. It was so effective. And the best thing is, actually he was going through a tough phase. And he said, luckily I got married when I was on Amazon. After that, my father-in-law wouldn't have given his daughter if I found him a stand-up. See, he went through a very tough phase, but he made fun of himself. Why do I say this with so much of confidence? Because I practiced this. Now, what I'm going to tell you is not a joke. Please listen carefully. August 2010, I was diagnosed with 3 blocks in my heart, and I was wheeled into the Apollo hospitals in Bangalore for a bypass, triple bypass surgery, heart bypass surgery. I was just being on the stretcher, only my sister was there with me. My wife was too tensed up, she was outside. And last minute, my Toastmaster Club president, Asim Purohit, came in. You see, Toastmasters will follow you everywhere. He said, CK, don't worry, everything is going to be all right. Can you tell us a joke? That moment I told him, the doctor has told I've got 3 blocks in my heart, 98%, 99%, 100%. Not a single subject in school or college have I got these marks. Everybody laughed, and the attender said, this is the first time in my history, not only is a heart patient laughing, he's making others also laugh. At that moment, I only thank God that I had the maturity to laugh at myself. Friends, if you're able to laugh at your own foibles, there can be nothing better, and if you can't appreciate this, then nothing can happen. You know what the renowned humorist Charlie Chaplin says? You must be able to take your pain and play around with it. I'm sure all of you know about the famous quote, I love walking in the rain because nobody can see my tears, right? I don't have to make other people also gloomy, but I can suppress my gloom and give a lot of happiness. But if you ask me, did I ever feel a higher sense of purpose in using jokes? Yes, it happened 5 years ago when I went to Atlanta. Now, I was